One of Satan's biggest deception on women is romance. Women were created to receive connection, not romance. But Satan has tricked us into thinking that romantic gestures are connection. They aren't. Romantic gestures done for you are how and where the breadcrumbs hide. Remember, I said those two words, to and for, would surface in the whole series. I'm going to dip into them again here. Some of the biggest examples of breadcrumbs in marriage are done by Hallmark cards, FTD, and Cineplex theaters. In your marriage, you've got an anniversary and a Valentine's Day. There's other occasions too, like your birthday or Mother's Day, if you're married, but I'm just focusing on the ones that are typically classified as romantic. So your husband buys a card for you. He buys chocolates for you. He buys flowers for you. He buys a gift for you. He buys a movie ticket for you. And yet, you still don't feel any interpersonal connection to you. There's still nothing happening to your heart. Doing things for you are not the same as relating to you. Cleaving to is what happens in between your anniversary date and Valentine's Day. Cleaving to is the atmosphere in the relationship that masculinity is cultivating so that you can respond to him. It's not the event or the occasion that he does something for you. Doing for others is what we're all commanded to do, for everyone. Buying a card for someone's special occasion is thoughtful. You can do it for a wife, or your daughter, or your son, or your mother, but it's not cleaving to them. When a man buys flowers for his mother, nobody would say he was cleaving to her, or that it was a romantic gesture. It's a kindness for a mother, but it's not romantic. There's 365 days in a year, and let's say you get acknowledged for all 4 of those days out of the 365. Mother's Day, your anniversary, Valentine's Day, and your birthday. Acknowledgement on those occasions doesn't create a one-flesh relationship. The one-flesh relationship is created in between those occasions. It's called breadcrumbing. When you have 4 special occasions out of 365 days, those 4 occasions are the bare minimum. Breadcrumbing is the bare minimum. It's the least amount of investment into the relationship. Yet, in marriage, women are convinced it's a relationship that's being cultivated through romance. If you've felt disconnected and unloved, even isolated in your own marriage, it could be because you've allowed Hallmark cards and FTD and movie theaters and restaurants to substitute breadcrumbs for a true one-flesh relationship. Breadcrumbs can also hide in routines that lack intentional thought and initiation. They're still events or happenings, they just fall into benign patterns. A few examples of how that was for me was that the only attention my heart got was on a schedule. A kiss hello, a kiss goodbye. But the real confusing part was that Dean expected me to come to the door to receive it as he was entering or leaving the home. Do you see how my feminine need was turned against me? He positioned me to be the one that was moving towards him to cleave to him. It didn't feel right in my heart because it was wrong for the feminine. Another example is that he was buying me flowers. Sounds nice, right? And it was, the first few times. But then a pattern emerged, and I saw that every Friday after work, I was receiving the same $5 cut flowers from the same grocery store. I felt guilty for seeing the pattern. It seemed like that wasn't a healthy response, so I struggled with that same experience for some time, until the day came when he walked in the door and didn't hand me the flowers but set them on the table because I wasn't in the room. He didn't come and find me to give them to me. He set them down on the table and said, Your flowers are on the table. I'm going out to the garage. Breadcrumbs enable a man to do the bare minimum of function for you, like doing the dishes for you, buying cut flowers for you, or cutting the grass for you, or buying a card for you. And we call it intimacy in relationship, even though he was in the kitchen and I wasn't, so there wasn't even a glimmer of eye contact. I was told this is emotional connection. I was told to appreciate the act, even though I didn't feel love or emotionally connected to. I didn't experience the feeling of being cleaved to. The counsel I received was masculine mindset training. Men truly appreciate acts because they're action-oriented. There's a huge difference between believing you're loved at the analytical level in your mind and the feeling of knowing the experience of that love in your heart. Let's turn it around and apply that same Christian counsel to a husband. Have you ever read or heard counsel that tells a man to just pretend he's being respected by his wife? You know, your masculinity doesn't really need to feel that she's respecting you. As long as she says she is, as long as you know it in your head, that should be enough. Doesn't sound right, does it? Because it's not. It doesn't work for masculinity, and so we shouldn't accept that it would work for femininity either. 1 John 4:16 says, "And we have come to know and to believe the love that God has for us." If there's two different experiences in our relationship with God, doesn't it make sense that we would have two different connection points within our relationships as brothers and sisters, especially when it comes to marriage? There's a depth of intimacy that comes with being known versus the elemental surface believing. Jesus makes that distinction for us in Matthew 7:23 when he said, "Depart from me, I never knew you." There's no real relationship without being known. You can think you're loved, but not feel loved. I knew God loved me. I believed he loved me because he loves everyone, right? It wasn't until I began my healing journey that I actually felt his love inside me. Knowing God loves me is a completely different experience than believing he does. When a man does things for you, you believe in your head, but when he cleaves to you, that's how you know it. Being known is how the feminine heart experiences the feeling of being loved. You know you're seen.